Meantime, 3 days and counting. Power Panel joins us now. We've got Gianno Caldwell, Fox News political analyst, and Leslie Marshall, Fox News contributor. Great to see you both. So,
good to be with you.
Gianno, I just read that Wall Street Journal headline, Haley DeSantis food fight validates Trump's debate boycott strategy. I mean, that is spot on, because that strategy apparently continues to work. You know, while Nikki Haley has moved past Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, she does remain in a distant second place behind former President Trump. He's at 54%. She's at 20%. DeSantis is trailing at 13%. So that begs the question, how make or break are these caucuses, especially for DeSantis? Because if DeSantis doesn't come out with a win here, he's pretty much out of the race.
Well, I think the same could be argued for either one of them. But the truth of the matter is, this is really going to be Donald Trump's caucus. And if it's anything less than a slam dunk for him, then you'll have the ability by the other two candidates to question if he's really the front runner. Because as we know, and as my old buddy Marty Morris used to say, polls don't vote. And it's currently 17 degrees right there. So we already know out of this 1,600 caucus sites that we're going to see on Monday, there's going to be people who don't show up. And I know Donald Trump is hoping that all his people come out so he can then declare himself the winner of the whole thing, and he's the nominee. That's what he'll do if he comes out with a big splash.
Leslie, Wednesday night was epic. Watching Haley sort of wipe the floor with DeSantis when she railed him and his campaign for blowing loads of cash on his private jets while she said she flies commercial, the infighting between his campaign employees, saying that if he can't manage his campaign, how is he going to manage the White House? I mean, it went on and on. Here was the problem. DeSantis went on the defense, but he got very defensive. Then she comes out, she says she struck a nerve, which is the best way to win an argument. And then after former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie was caught on a hot mic saying Nikki Haley would get smoked, she explained why she sets herself apart from the fellas. I love it. Watch.
She's going to get smoked, and you and I both know it. She's not up to this.
I didn't know about the open mic comments, but look, I mean, I do wish Chris well. It's personal to get in a race. It's personal to get out of a race. So I know how tough that must be. But at the same time, I'm not like the fellas. Politics is not personal for me.
I mean, it's so aptly said. This shouldn't be personal. And when it gets personal, whenever you're in an argument and it gets personal, that's a sign of weakness. That did not help DeSantis, Leslie.
No, I agree. But sadly, that's what politics has become. I mean, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, whether you're a male or female, and certainly the front runner for the GOP knows how to make personal attacks. Look, she certainly earned the percentage point bumps that she got from Wednesday night. You are correct. But when you are 34 percentage points in second behind the front runner, you might as well be in eighth, not in second. I would agree with Gianno that Iowa is all about Donald Trump. And even though I live in Los Angeles, where it's pretty much warmer than 17 below zero, I'm from Boston. I've lived in Buffalo and Cleveland and Chicago. I know those temperatures, but so do Iowans. And I don't think that's going to deter many of them from coming out and doing what they know is very important for their party as Republicans.
And as we know, Vivek Ramaswamy was not there. He didn't meet the 10% threshold. Chris Christie, he left the race this week with more of a blunder than a bang. But Gianno, I mean, it looks like Nikki Haley got the last word. The question is she going to be the last man standing, or in this case, the last woman standing after Iowa?
I mean, I think she's going to continue on. And one thing that I've been saying time and time again, especially after the first Republican debate, when she spoke on a very important issue for a lot of women across the country, abortion, and how Republicans need to not necessarily change values, but at least the approach to the issue and not demonize women. She's been pulling people, I think, independents. I think there's going to be some Republicans who wouldn't have given her a look before. And then certainly she's going to be out there for whatever happens after this presidential contest, whether it be a cabinet position or something else. She's going to be a name that lives on. Ron DeSantis will too, but she's definitely made a mark on this presidential Republican primary.
Yeah, and by the way, this Sunday night on the eve of Iowa caucuses, be sure to tune into some very special programming. Harris Faulkner anchoring the Faulkner Focus, Iowa in Focus. She'll talk to Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds, Iowa Senator Joni Ernst, and a panel of Iowa voters. So stay tuned to that. They're going to weigh in on who they want to see as the GOP nominee and the issues that matter most to them. Harris also breaks down the history and the workings of the state's very unique caucus system. That airs Sunday night. 10 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss it. I got to move on to this. The Wall Street Journal editorial board laying it all out, basically calling out Dr. Anthony Fauci with this headline. Anthony Fauci fesses up. It comes after chairman of the House Select Committee on Coronavirus Pandemic, Brad Wenstrup, said that Fauci made some shocking admissions during his 2-day, 14-hour closed-door interview that happened this week. Quote, Dr. Fauci claimed that the policies and mandates he promoted may unfortunately increase vaccine hesitancy for years to come. He testified that the lab leak hypothesis, which was often suppressed, was, in fact, not a conspiracy theory. Further, the social distancing recommendations forced on Americans, quote, sort of just appeared and were likely not based on scientific data. A quick reminder of what Dr. Fauci was telling us all back in 2020.
Every aspect of that ending the COVID outbreak in 30 days has some aspect of it of physical separation, whether that's avoiding crowds, whether that's staying 6 feet away from people, whether that's doing teleworking. All of it does that. That's our most important tool. Avoid crowded places, 6-foot distance. Maintain that.
So that's a lot of conflicting information. It's also disappointing to know that he wasn't relying on science for that, because we were all looking to him to give us the science. I do recall he at first said that masks aren't going to help you, and that obviously turned out to be an about face. So Leslie, what are we to believe?
Well, you know, there's a number of things here. When you go in for surgery, everybody in the room has a mask on. And this was before we even heard the word COVID. Mm-hmm. One of the things with COVID is we saw a record number of people dying, whether it was in Italy or South Korea. And it was very fearful, everyone, politicians and medical professionals here, to do something to stop this in its tracks, to protect the American people from the number of bodies that we saw lined up from that happening here. So it was a very fluid situation. Many times when you go to the doctor, they may be giving you recommendations based on a combination of common sense and, you know, theories, hypotheses, and scientific data. There just wasn't enough data out there. And I don't blame him for that. I know he's the poster child for blame, but I think that everyone, politicians, medical professionals together at that time, were trying to do their best to protect us. I honestly do. I don't think there was any political agenda. Right. I think it was just to stop more grave sites from popping up for the American people.
Giano, I mean, obviously the mask did prevent the spread, and he initially did say that masks are not going to protect you, which really made no sense considering all the doctors who were getting an influx of COVID patients were all wearing KN94s and more on their bodies. But it was just the delivery in it, because he made it seem matter of fact, as if he had the scientific data to back up what he was saying, but really a lot of it was purely opinion, which really does, I believe, concern the American public as to what to believe if we ever, you know, are in the midst of another pandemic.
I think these revelations should be upsetting to just about every American. Look at how many lives, based on the information that was provided by Dr. Fauci. And then you had states and cities like Los Angeles that created policies that weren't based on science. How many people lost their jobs? How many people were banned from social media? How many people lost their family members in terms of them not wanting to be around them? Masks were never 100%. We saw that from early studies. And now we're finding out after all of this time, where all of these different things happened, that it was a bunch of lies. Like, that is so unfair to the American people. And when people justifiably, I'm talking about doctors, Senator Rand Paul himself, a doctor, had made mention that this isn't based on science, how many news networks ridiculed him and many other Americans? This was not okay, and he should be held accountable for his lies.
All right, Giano Caldwell, thank you very much. And Leslie Marshall, great to see you both.